Hello, and welcome to the second episode of That's What She Said, the Plate Players podcast. This is Trinata, and joining us today to help out is Balk Grimley. How are you doing today, Balk?
Hey Trin, I'm kinda hungry. How are you, man?
I'm doing great, but let's get right into this before everyone shuts us off. Today we're going to be looking at general damage per second between all the plate-wearing classes. As most people with level 80 would know right now, all plate-wearing classes do best with using two-handed weapons to DPS with.
Warriors and Death Knights can do well at dual wielding when they spec for it, although Warriors still have to use two-handers to do well. Death Knights, on the other hand, while Spec Frost can do some decent numbers now that 3.2 is out.
Now when it comes to stats, for the most part, all the classes can go the same route for the stats, with only minor differences to what stats are best. The stats you should look for most as a plate DPS are hit, expertise, strength, crit, haste, and armor pen. Each class has a different need for each of these stats and will be covered in later episodes that address each class. Overall, I would say strength is the most important stat to shoot for once you're hit capped, unless you're going for special gear specs that have different needs. But overall, you always gain huge benefits from strength, no matter what class you play. When looking for gear, other than maintaining your caps and hit, and ideally expertise, you can really use any piece of plate DPS gear that you can get your hands on, because none of these stats will ever really hurt your DPS, though some stats are better than others depending on your class and spec.
For example, Paladins get a lot less out of armor penetration, but Arms Warriors gain so much out of this stat that it can be better than strength with the right gear. Also, Paladins and Fury Warriors get a lot more out of haste than a DK does. Paladins, because the more times you trigger your seal, the more DPS you will get. And Fury, the haste helps with rage gen and damage, with the fact that you're hitting with two weapons even more often makes sense, right? Where a Death Knight's white hits, unless unholy, gives them nothing more than white damage, where other stats scale up with strikes and spells, which gives them a lot more to work with.
Sadly, for general talk about plate DPS, that about wraps it up. So now on to the Q&A. Anonymous asks, Trin, I know this is off topic from your podcast, but what UI add-ons are you using that makes your UI look so clean and cool? Well, Anonymous, a wide array of add-ons. I'll start with the main ones here, and just because you're the first person to email in with a question, I'll make a whole video detailing them all just for you. For unit frames, I use Pitbull 3.0. For bars, I use Bartender 4. Grid for party and raid frames, Elkano's buff bars for my buffs, Titan panel, sexy map, and much, much more.
Kellyan on the Echo Isle server asks, I'm leveling a Paladin to heal, and I was wondering, can a Holy Paladin do enough DPS at 80 to be able to do solo quests such as dailies? Well, Kel, although Holy Paladins in no way have any form of crazy DPS, they can do enough burst damage with Holy Shock and the right seal to be able to quest without the need for dual specs.
Well guys, that's it for this episode. Remember to keep sending your questions in, and as always guys, don't forget, that's what she said.